is a day where context hardly matters, a game unto itself. Two tribes, one manner, no compromise.
Rose! That's extraordinary! Oh, what a goal that is! One of the great solo goals in Premier League history.
Arsenal have to beat Spurs. Spurs have to beat Arsenal. And here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
Lamella through a crowd of legs and in.
Kane came sliding in. Saka kept going. And Arsenal lead Spurs 3-0. This place is flying. For those invested in this, today there is nothing else.
Tell you what we need to look forward to the biggest North London derby in years. We need a former Tottenham player and current Arsenal fan in Darren Bent. That's what we need, someone with proper conflicted views on this. Look, if Arsenal win, it feels like it's pretty much done and dusted. If Spurs win, it starts to get exciting.
It does. I mean, it's in Arsenal's hands, as you said there. I mean, that 4-point gap, which gives them a little bit of a cushion, because even if they do lose, they've still got that point buffer. But it's going to be interesting. Both teams playing really well, you'd have to say.
Look, we've got a countdown to kick off. That's how exciting this game is.
It's exciting, nerve-wracking at the same time. But Arsenal have put themselves in this position by some fantastic performances. The likes of beating Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, beating Manchester United, beating West Ham. They've had some tough games, but they've managed to overcome that, because there was a time where it looked like it was Spurs' to lose. They were playing really well, had the rhythm. Conte was all obviously jumping up and down, singing and dancing and all that. But Arteta's come back. He's trusted in the youth, and they've not let him down. And Arsenal are in a fantastic position, because if they get the job done now, 7 points is over.
Yeah, although they are at Tottenham, Karen, and if Tottenham play as well and as efficiently as we know they can do under Antonio Conte, they have a real opportunity here to go to a point behind Arsenal with 6 points for each team left to play for.
Yeah, you're right. But it's that if it's your flick of a coin, and which Spurs or even Arsenal at the time, which team's going to show up and which team's going to have the, trying to use the right word, who's going to step up on the night and be counted for. But you're right, at home, you probably do fancy Spurs, well I do anyway, I think. And the front line, if they turn it on, I think they'll have a good day against Arsenal.
Go on. No, I was going to say, it's just, when you look at the way that Spurs play, I think for Arsenal, you know what they're going to do. They're going to sit in there. And that's sometimes where Arsenal are at their most dangerous, because they kind of sit in there, they defend really well, they're compact. And then you get the likes of Saka, and certainly with Martinelli, whose last couple of months has really kind of come into his own, and the pace of Eddie Nketiah. All of a sudden now, Arsenal have got a front three that can all run. And when you look at Spurs, some of their better performances are the ones where they've sat in against the likes of Liverpool, Manchester City, where they've not really got to make the game, and they can hit teams on a counter-attack. But we've seen them against Brighton struggle, where they're the ones who are out there to try and make play, dictate play, and they've struggled. So, again, it's going to be real contrast in the styles.
Yeah, looking to see how both of the teams approach this one is going to be key. But it could be, as much as it's a huge occasion, it could be quite a cagey game, potentially.
Exactly, both for the stakes and I think the way the manager is set up. And I'd say, I mean, Karen's dead right to point to kind of the home advantage, but I think that's offset by the kind of the almost tactical uncertainty it's created by the fact that Arsenal don't actually have to win. And as Darren was saying there, like I think almost the difference between the two sides this season, and probably why Arsenal are at the moment 4 points ahead, is because Arsenal have won most of the games they should win, whereas under Conte, Spurs have actually got some huge wins that you wouldn't expect, the big games, with the biggest, of course, being Manchester City, and even the draw last week against Liverpool, you could say, given the form Liverpool were on. But so many of those performances have been based on, as Darren said, reacting to the other team, having got that kind of strong defence and countering. Whereas if they do that tonight, that will actually suit Arsenal. I mean, it could be why it's a cagey game, because if Spurs want to sit and invite Arsenal on, Arsenal go, well, okay, that's fine, we can stand off because the situation suits us. And I suppose maybe it's, if there's one goal or that break in play, that could maybe make it chaotic then, because then it becomes a kind of almost a boxing match.
It's weird, because then the other part of me as a player, then I know what you're saying, and go, oh yeah, but I know what I've got to do, I've got to win. And if I'm Arsenal and I'm playing for a draw or whatever, I'm a little bit, I feel a little bit in control, and it's kind of, but I know from Spurs, I have to win. I'm at home, I've got to deliver. I know I've got to proper go to my max and go to that, and I'm thinking, so it literally, again, that's what I say, you can flick a coin, like, it's the mentality, how do you approach it, and what players are going to step up, the pressure, and that's what I think both teams can do it. That's what I tried to say earlier and I couldn't word it right. I just think it's who's got the character. Well, that's the one for me.
I mean, as players, do you ever find that where you're in a situation, because obviously the ground is going to be absolutely rocking tonight, you know, first at the new stadium of fans, where on the one side you've got the crowd and you're back kind of willing you on, but then potentially like your manager's encouraging restraint. I mean, that must be actually quite difficult to balance in itself. Have you ever been in that situation?
What, when the managers try to...
Well, basically the crowd is urging you on, but the manager's kind of, you know,
I've pretty much had urge you on, because 9 times out of 10 I've had to win. So it's like, go. Yeah. But no, I preferred it, going for it, because I knew I had to... Sometimes when you're trying to hold your back and you're trying to play for a draw, you're in a little bit of control. I found that more nerve-wracking.
Right, yeah.
Because I knew they were going to come out. I know you could say we could pick them off, but maybe because I was an attacking player, I knew I had to attack, whereas a defender might be in that. But my mindset, and as a player, I prefer to have a go and be positive and drive and commit and try and open the teams up. But
it's almost like you're encouraging, when you try and sit in there for a draw and play for a draw, that's why it's a dangerous game, because when you do that, you're encouraging them and you keep dropping further and further and deeper, until the point you're defending on the edge of your own box. And to be fair, Arsenal defensively have been better this season.
Yeah.
But still, to be able to hold an attack of like Spurs, of Kane, Son, Kulusevski, by defending on your own box, that's going to be so difficult. So I fully expect Arsenal to let Spurs dictate play and then release Saka, Martinelli. And as I said, with Nketiah, he's given them a new dimension, because all of a sudden you've got a centre forward that's just chasing lost causes. So necessarily, it doesn't even have to be a pass. You look at the goal against Chelsea, Christensen underhits a back pass, and Nketiah is onto it, finishes it really well. It goes back to the Leeds goalkeeper Meslier, and Nketiah is steaming after it, gets these little rewards. All of a sudden now Spurs will be thinking, if it's Lacazette, okay, we can just kind of shield him in front, not that the quickest, but he holds up the ball really well. All of a sudden, I know as a defender, the last thing you want to be doing is running back towards your own goal. And if they keep putting over the top and you let them three keep running after it, they'll cause Spurs problems all evening.
Let's see if we can get a hint as to how Arsenal might approach this with Mikel Arteta.
The most exciting one, probably, but we had others when we played the finals against Chelsea and Liverpool in the FA Cup and Community Shield. It was the same. It's when you have the opportunity to achieve one of your objectives in the season. It's just can't wait to play the game, because this is a job and the work that you've done throughout the season to try to earn it. The history about the North London, we all know about it, and what it means to our fans, and after that it's a football pitch with a lot of noise and crowd that will be excited to support the team, and we will have our fans as well for sure, 100% behind the team. Now the message is clear that if we win against them, we are in the Champions League next season. And I don't think you need any more motivation and to tell them anything less than that. The opportunity is there, and we're going to play and go for it like we always do, because it's how we have come into this position, and that's how we're going to approach it.
He seems genuinely very relaxed ahead of what is the biggest North London derby in years. How important is it to keep a lid on all that tension in the build-up as a player?
Yeah, it's tough, because I can remember this very game, obviously, for Spurs going to Arsenal, and it's just so nerve-wracking. Probably not as big as this, because obviously trying to get into the top four. But everything comes into play. I'm talking about when I was on the coach, you've got a suit on and it's a bit hot. You're like, oh my God, can't quite get comfortable. You can't relax a little bit. You're making sure you're overhydrating, so you're in the toilet every 5 minutes. It's so difficult to kind of prepare for these type of games. But you're right, when you look at someone like Mikel Arteta, who is a novice in terms of management, he seems to have managed his team really, really well, because he's had a lot to deal with himself. He's had his own fans kind of on his back thinking, is he good enough to manage this club? He's even had sections of Arsenal fans talking about, well, if he does get him in the Champions League, I think we should say thank you, move him on and get someone else in. He's had a lot to deal with. And
that's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous,
like,
but
what?
he's had to deal with these type of scenarios. So I think at the minute he's almost reveling in that and thinking, okay, the crop of players that I've had to lean on, the youngsters, some of the senior players, they've played for me. They've kind of got the results I've needed them to do. They've bought into what I've wanted to do. And I think that's why, as Miguel was saying earlier, that's why they sit above Spurs 4 points clear, because I honestly genuinely believe that the players have bought into what he's got to say, put in the performances, and also beaten the majority of the teams they're expected to beat.
Yeah, and they have been accused of being inconsistent at times, Arsenal, which can be a product of the youth of the squad, and it can also be a product of the fact that they are challenging for the Champions League spaces. We're not judging them by City, Liverpool standards, we're judging them by that race for the top four.
And also, sorry, Kels, he's won a trophy relatively early as well, so that's not helped him.
Well, and then the expectations rise as that goes on. But actually, in a broader sense, there has been real improvement for Arsenal under Mikel Arteta. If you look at the sort of 35 games from last season compared to this, there's a big shift there in terms of what this Arsenal side can do.
Recruitment.
Yeah.
Getting the right players in with the right model. I mean, gone for young players who, even if you sold them on, which you won't want to do because he's improving them, they've got sell-on value, they've got players coming in at the right time for their contracts. I just think that in football, I always look about all the off-the-pitch stuff that gets a club right, and for me, that's what they've done well, recruited really well. Even, I think I said it on here, the Ramsdale, recruitment where nobody wanted to touch him because of the relegations, but they saw something in him, they saw something in his character, they saw something that would fit his culture, and that's what I'm talking about characters tomorrow. Is the culture ready? Is it still growing? Is it still there? Is that culture set for top four? But no matter what, he's done an unbelievable job.
Also, he's had to make some big decisions. Along the way, by the way. Because you look at the Aubameyang situation. Because there was a time where Arsenal weren't scoring goals and a few fans were starting to go, was it the right decision? But he was one that said, no, absolutely not. He's not coming back into this dressing room. And you live and die by some of your decisions. And that was one where it could have gone either way. Because then Aubameyang goes to Barcelona. He can't stop scoring. People are like, was it the right decision? But then he's still stuck with it. And again, that's why he deserves massive respect.
But we're just on that. I mean, one of the things you hear from Arsenal, one of their successors, saying in contrast to someone they're likely to finish ahead of, Manchester United, is that Arteta's been absolutely, and this speaks to what you're saying about big decisions, he's been ruthless as regards if he senses or feels any player isn't 100% behind this, because of the potential lag effect that can have on the rest of the group, he gets rid of them straight away. Or he gets rid of them as quickly as he can. And I suppose it's about building up, a little bit similar to what Klopp has done, what Pochettino did before at Spurs, building a group that's just fully unified behind one idea. So you're not, even if characters are good players, you're not indulging a potential drop-off because of the potential effect that has on the dressing room. And I think we are seeing the effect of that now.
I think that comparison between Arteta at Arsenal and Pochettino's time at Spurs is a really interesting one, because you feel like this young group of players coming through the potential that they have, trying to get them to reach higher levels, doing it in stages, Champions League qualification being the next one. It's a really appropriate one.
Yeah, it was one Jack Brooke, my former colleague at The Independent, wrote today.
Yeah, I saw it too.
I was quite irritated that he wrote the quote. That was a good idea.
But it is, there is a sort of similarity in the two situations.
Excitement, at the time, both two young managers working with a group that all of them had a point to prove, really, always building. You get them at the right age. When we played, you're young, you're raw, you're excited, you've never been there, you want to do it, you've got that bit between your teeth, and that's a great time. And if you can keep that group and you're all going in the same direction, same beliefs, and sometimes that's unstoppable. And I think no matter what, of course they want to get top four, but for me, he's had a great season because he's made big decisions that he might not get what he wants this season, but I'm sure hopefully he will. But it will set him in good stead for the next season and the season after. And people want to play for good clubs and good cultures, and they want to go there and know that he can work and make them better.
And while Arsenal have all that youth and energy and all the sort of enthusiasm going into that game, for Tottenham, there's a lot of experience around the club with Antonio Conte, of course, with Harry Kane, and with their captain, Hugo Lloris.
I think when you start the season, you always have the ambition to do better than the last one, and I think the top four used to be a principal target for the club, but the competition is very difficult between 6 or 7 teams, involved. I would say that we arrive at one point in the season, October, November, we could not think about this scenario. With the work, with results, we come back on track, and I think we deserve to be in this final race for the fourth place. But also, the one who will be fourth will deserve this place. You know, that's there is no doubt about that. Football, especially when you play a league, at the end of the season, the table is more or less the truth. You know, so there's still 3 games to play, and a lot of things can happen. But again, our future, our destiny is not in our hands. Arsenal is in front of us at the moment, and I will try to do everything to stay above us until the end of the season. But this game means a lot because it's a derby, but also because it's our last chance to catch some points and to get back and put pressure on them.
Yeah, chance to catch up, to put pressure on, to try and get there. But as he said, you look back to October, November, and the Spurs players didn't think they would be in this situation where with a couple of games left to go, they're in with a chance of qualifying for the Champions League.
Yeah, it shows the inconsistencies of the teams in and around them. Manchester United, West Ham, Arsenal have all dropped points at key moments this season, but your Spurs have been constant. Obviously, the form that they've showed since Antonio Conte got there obviously helps. You talk about a world-class manager who's been there, who's done it. Certainly in this league, he's won the Premier League already. So it was just about the players kind of adapting to what he wanted to do. They've managed to do that relatively quickly, you'd have to say. And then we've started seeing the emergence of Harry Kane in the form of the Harry Kane that we know. Start of the season, maybe a lot on his mind about the transfer to Manchester City. That didn't happen. But it's almost like he sat down with Antonio Conte. Antonio Conte's said what he wants from him, what he believes he can do. And Harry Kane's been fantastic. The numbers maybe don't show it because we used to seeing Harry Kane.
They do if you look from the sort of change in form from in January time, isn't there? It's like night and day for Harry Kane. It's like almost like he's had 2 seasons.
Yeah, but it's almost like you used to seeing Harry Kane, certainly top goal scoring charts. He's up there in the 20s, somewhere there or thereabouts. But again, he's playing really well. His overall play's been really, really good. But as I said, the upturn in form under Antonio Conte is scary.
Yeah, it has been, and it's not just been Harry Kane who's benefited from it. Son's got more goals and assists than anyone else in the league since December.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Fitness, though, they look fitter as well under Conte. They can get to the levels, they can do what's required. And even, I know we moved back to Son, but for Kane, you said there about January. I remember being on there and chatting to you about it, that I always said it would take 6 months after the Euros.
Yeah.
And then to come in, you find the form and they go again. And if Kane's playing well, Son's playing well, if they're happy and the team going like that, if you've got a manager, they're fitter, they're more mobile to compete. You have to compete. And if you weren't at the levels that they were, then they've got no chance.
Do you know what? I've got a thing when they say about this fitness thing, because sometimes that could be used as an excuse. Because if you look at the first 3 games of the season, no one was saying that when they were sitting top of the table, won the first 3, beating Manchester City in that 3. But you've got to admit, Nuno plays a completely different style to Antonio Conte. So Nuno was very much sit on the back foot, kind of sit in there, defend, and then hit teams on the counter-attack, which he did against Manchester City fantastically well with. I think it was Berk, Vine, Son and Lucas Moura, they were the front 3. But Antonio Conte is completely different. So, of course, your running stats are going to be more because he demands more, obviously on the front foot, pressing, high energy. So at times it could be a little bit misleading, I think, in terms of the stats, the running stats. People go, they look fitter, when that's just 2 completely different styles.
Yeah, there's more running is required, but still it comes down to the effect that Antonio Conte has had on this squad.
Oh yeah, so, I mean, let's be fair here. When you stand back, I mean, Nuno, for all he did at Wolves, we're talking about a coach who would probably be at best described as good, whereas Conte is one of the best in the world, absolutely world class. And that will have an effect all on its own. And I mean, I suppose it's one of the extra intrigues about this game, whereas they're not just playing for the Champions League this season, they're potentially playing for the future of Conte and maybe Harry Kane. Now, I do think that those situations have settled down a little bit. I mean, I would say it's almost, at the very least, 51% likely that Conte and Kane stay for next season, regardless of what happens. And I mean, I suppose if you stood back with both of these clubs, if you just look at it purely in terms of progress and where they might have been, they've had a good season. So Conte has basically revived Spurs. You can take them seriously again. Arsenal are obviously on a kind of upward trajectory. But of course, all that could be scrambled by the sense that, well, our rivals have finished ahead of us and we've let them do it. Especially given what Champions League money can do for next season.
Yeah, and what it could do, not just for next season, but what they can do over the summer in terms of what they're able to go out and strengthen the squad with. And you would hope, or Tottenham would hope and Antonio Conte would hope, that there would be money available if they're going to keep him on as manager. If Harry Kane's going to stay, then you sort of feel like their futures are tied together in the way Conte and Kane. But if he is going to stay there, he's going to want money to spend, and that will be dependent on whether or not they finish in the Champions League, or certainly how much of it will be dependent on whether they finish in the Champions League. Look at the remaining games. After this one, Arsenal and Newcastle away, Everton at home, as we've already talked about. Tottenham have got Burnley, and then they've got Norwich away, whose season has been disastrous. So what do we think? If Arsenal win this, is that it done for them if they win this fixture?
Well, yeah, I think that'd be, if Arsenal win, I think that's 7 points, and then obviously that's it done. But if it's a draw and you look at Spurs' next two with the Burnley and
that's
Norwich,
where it starts to get interesting, isn't it?
Because I think Spurs will beat Burnley and Norwich quite comfortably. Yeah. But Newcastle away, that's the difficulty. If Arsenal can get a result there, then again, fantastic. But the last two, Everton fighting for their lives as well. I think Spurs probably looking at this result. If we can get something from this game with Burnley and Norwich left to play, they'd be in the driving seat, I think.
What do you think?
Probably agree, actually. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Your application for this derby, if you go for the win, you go for a result. I think that's why I fancy Spurs.
Yeah. Arsenal with the win, all sorted, all done. Do you see a spanner being thrown in the works here?
I'm actually going to go for an Arsenal win.
Yes.
I think I just have from Arteta's approach, from just the general vibe, and I think the way the game will pan out, I just think Arsenal will nick it.
Do you know what? By the time we come back here next weekend, the title race could be all but done. Manchester City could be flying at the top of the table. We could have top four already sorted. That relegation battle is going to be the one, though, that could really go down to the wire, isn't it? That's going to be the thing that definitely is going to go down to the last. Definitely, it's going to go down to the last day of the season.
And again, it's football. You know, we always have these expectations, and then they're always kind of end up proving spectacularly wrong, or there's something that changes.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating watching it all kind of unfold as the season goes on. So we've got the North London derby coming up tonight. Top four very much involved in that. If Spurs fail to beat Arsenal, then Chelsea will also know that they're going to be playing in the Champions League next season. We've got the top of the table battles still to come. Manchester City have got a game at the weekend while Liverpool are in FA Cup action. So Manchester City could be 6 points clear at the top of the table, having played a game more than Liverpool by the time Liverpool play in the Premier League again on Tuesday, which is against Southampton. And then we've got all the run-in to the end of the season as far as the bottom of the table is concerned. And that probably is going to be the least predictable of all the areas that we can look at in terms of where things are going to shake up in the Premier League. But we will be here next week to reflect on all of it. It'll be the last Kelly and Wrighty of the season. Wrighty's working on the North London derby tonight, but I think he'll be back for next week to kind of wrap up how the season has panned out and ahead of the last weekend of the Premier League season. For now, though, thank you to everybody for joining me, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.